So next, we're going to be turning to remittances. In 2019, the total value of global migrant remittances was $554 billion, supporting 800 million people. It's clear that access to remittances is critically important, but that the current infrastructure is still primarily cash dependent, slow, and expensive. So what happens when we see remittance companies apply some stellar innovation to this problem? We've got a great lineup of guests to talk about this, including leaders from Flutterwave, Tempo, and Parahub. And they're going to be sharing what they've been doing on Stellar and in the global remittance space. Boris Reznikov from SDF's business development team will be moderating the discussion. And Boris, I will now hand it off to you. Ooh.
All right, thank you everyone so much for joining us today to discuss the important topic of remittances, which of course is a big part of the economy and is near and dear to many of us in this industry. I'm thrilled to be joined today by three esteemed panelists. As Lisa mentioned, we have Omosalewa Adeyemi, who is head of expansion at Flutterwave. We have Surin Irian, Managing Director and CEO of Tempo Money Transfer, and Ian Ocampo, CEO of Parahub. And I'm Boris Reznikov, Director of Business Development here at the Stellar Development Foundation. We're super proud to have each of you as a valuable part of the community and as a part of the Stellar Network. I would love if each of you could briefly introduce your companies for those of us who may not be familiar with them. Would you mind kicking us off?
Sure thing, Boris. Good to see you, and thank you again for having Flutterwave represented. My name is Flutterwave. We are a payment technology company focusing on the African continent. Essentially, what we're doing is building one platform to support all types of digital payments on the African continent. Today, digital payments are highly fragmented in Africa. We have over 40 currencies, we have over 50 countries, and we, on average, have about 3 to 4 different payment types that are not operable across the different countries. So it becomes very challenging to transact or even send remittances within the continent. What we're doing at Flutterwave is putting all of those payment types on one platform so that it can be easier for businesses and individuals alike to interact with each and every one of those payment types.
Thank you very much. Surin?
Hi Boris, hi everybody. I'm Surin and I represent Tempo. I'm a managing partner of Tempo Money Transfer. So Tempo is a payment institution licensed in France, in European Union. We are providing money transfer services for individuals and B2B businesses. And we have covered more than 100 countries worldwide and sending money to all of the world and using different means of payments to be able to cover clients' needs.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Ian.
Yeah. Hi. Good morning, Boris. So our company name is actually PetNet. Our retail name is Parahub. Para in English is money, so it's actually a money hub, right? And we've been in the remittance industry for about 20 years now, and a large part of that we were exclusive to Western Union. It's only this year that we became non-exclusive, and it's quite exciting for us to partner with Stellar and other remittance companies going forward, right? And apart from remittance, we also solicit loans. Well, PetNet is part of the Aboitiz group of companies and owned by Union Bank of the Philippines. So part of what we do also is we solicit loans for the bank, and we also do corporate and retail foreign exchange.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Again, thank all three of you for joining us today. So I'd like to bring our attention to the topic that is still on everybody's minds, which of course is coronavirus. I'd love to understand how COVID has affected each of your businesses. Ian, you process remittances in the Philippines, which of course is a traditionally cash-heavy economy. Are you seeing this cash heaviness changing? Is cash still king in the Philippines, despite the prevailing headwinds in the market right now?
Well, I would have to say for now, yes, cash is still king. But I think not just in the Philippines, but in many other countries, digital adoption is significantly on the rise, as seen in a lot of banking apps here. Many of them have been waiving their charges for digital payments for bills. So technical adoption is definitely on the rise. Now, for remittances, certainly the same is happening. We do have a mobile app, and especially in April and May, transactions have doubled, while majority of our transactions are still over the counter. We see digital transactions to be on the rise. It's a strategic initiative for us to grow this business and to support it and improve the experience and interface in our app.
Very interesting. Yeah, we've seen companies, of course, very interested in growing the digital rails, but we've also seen in certain circumstances and instances, governments and central banks making efforts to move people away from cash, whether temporarily or permanently, and towards digital for safety reasons during this time. Oh, do you have anything to add on this that you're seeing in the markets in which Flutterwave is active?
Yes, absolutely. So I mentioned earlier, our core market is in Africa, and we not only support remittances, we also support the acceptance of payments. So right around March, April, when a lot of economies or countries were beginning to issue stay-in-place orders, we also observed a lot of the regulators in the countries that we work with put in place sometimes temporary, sometimes more permanent regulation in place to try to encourage the use of digital channels for transacting rather than cash. In Africa as well, cash is still king. I think we don't have exact numbers, but most definitely under 10% of all transactions on the continent are what have been migrated to digital platforms today. So it was really good to see the regulators step in and try to promote safety by implementing measures such as crashing or entirely removing transaction fees on digital transactions, just in an attempt to encourage the businesses and residents of their countries to focus more on digital transactions and build up the trend of digital transacting locally.
Very interesting. Thank you for that. Surin, I'd like to ask you, from where you sit in Paris, I'm sure the diaspora in the West has also been adversely affected, of course, by COVID. What are you seeing as the overall trends in remittances? Are people still able to have enough disposable income to send to their loved ones in the developing world?
Yeah, of course, it's Boris, it's very good questions because actually, yes, this COVID has a quite negative impact on the remittance business, especially and worldwide, but especially from countries which are supporting remittance, where from people send money. And yes, because we are working not only in France, but in the whole European Union. Yes, we saw that when it was lockdown in Europe, actually everything was stopped. Of course, we saw online business was growing, but anyway, it wasn't like appropriate growth. I mean, compare with what was negative impact, because everything was closed, people wasn't able to earn their money to send. Of course, yes, there was a negative impact, but when it was open again before second lockdown, I will say we see that people still want to send money. Because as you know, Tempo use many channels to send money, like it's online, there's also offline, like agent network, and we have our own stores. And in all those channels, we see that when it's lockdown let's stop, then people start to send money again, and it was growing. So I think that's, yeah, it was a negative impact, of course, but now it comes back.
I'm happy to hear that. And I have a question to all three of you. You know, we've seen many things shift during this time. Which of these changes do you think is temporary, and which do you think are here to stay?
I can go first, if I may. So I think regardless of COVID or not, there was a rise in switching from cash to digital. I think in some economies it was exacerbated by COVID, of course. I think that that's a trend that's likely to continue post-COVID, if there is such a thing as a post-COVID era. I think that digital it makes things not only safer for us in this COVID era that we're in, but traditionally it's also helped crash the cost of remittances. So if you think about remittances from a brick and mortar perspective, where you have to develop agent networks both on the receiving side, on the sending side, you have to maintain physical infrastructure, and all of the costs for maintaining the different aspects of the remittance business eventually have to be factored into the cost of the remittance itself. You'll see, so I think traditionally remittances have been estimated to cost about 10% of the value that you're actually trying to send. But when you compare that to digital channels, you see costs drop as low as $1 or under $1, regardless of the amount that you're trying to send, right? And that's because with digital channels, you can sort of eliminate some of the larger costs that are associated with traditional remittance businesses. And that's the space within which Flutterwave operates. We support remittance companies who are looking to pay out into Africa, be it into bank accounts or be it into mobile wallets. So I think we've been seeing over the last 3 years where we've been supporting remittance companies, Temple being one of the companies that we've worked with. In the last 3 years where we've been supporting remittance companies, we've most definitely see an increase in the volumes that our remittance partners are sending into Africa. And we most definitely anticipate that volume will continue to grow.
Very interesting. So it sounds like there are, in fact, some positive externalities as a result of this. Ian, I'm curious from your perspective in the Philippines, which of these changes that you're seeing do you expect to be temporary, and which do you expect to see for a long time to come?
Well, similar to what Paul mentioned, I think digital remittances will be on the rise, and I think how we're preparing for that is we're building a digital remittance platform, whereas before, traditionally, what we would do is we would look for physical networks, but with this remittance platform, and as I mentioned earlier, right, this year I think we partnered with close to 10 remittance companies already, and what we'd like to do, and we're offering that in our traditional physical counters. So what we would like to do next year is to put that all in the platform, in digital platforms, and part of the exciting thing is to look for these digital ecosystems where we can connect with these ecosystems through our platforms and give them access to all these remittance services. So for us, that's very exciting.
Yeah, hopefully the shift to digital will result in, be a silver lining at the end of the day, in that it may ultimately reduce the cost of transfers for many of the people that rely on remittances for their day-to-day lives. I'd like to shift the focus now to the topic of interoperability in cross-border payments. Interoperability, of course, is something that we think a lot about here at the Stellar Development Foundation. But interestingly, interoperability can mean many different things to many different people, even within the cross-border payment space. So for example, interoperability can refer to mobile money interfacing with traditional banking systems. It can refer to the interface of crypto networks with traditional banking systems. It can even refer to interoperability between two different crypto networks, or not even talking about crypto networks. It can refer to interoperability between digital wallets, which is not in place today either. And so I'd love to hear from the three of you, what does interoperability mean for your companies? In what way is it important? How do you strive to foster interoperability? And I'd be interested to know if that was one of the primary reasons why you decided to leverage the Stellar network to help process the cross-border payments that you do. So, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, sure thing. So for me, interoperability means my client not having to be concerned with how they're sending funds or where they're sending funds, right? So today in Africa, I mentioned earlier, we have over 300 payment types across all the countries. So as a remittance company who is looking to send payments into Africa, you're often burdened with having to understand the dynamics of every country and having to, beyond that, understand how the different payment systems interact with each other in those countries if they interact with each other. So if there's a remittance company who's interested in sending payments into Tanzania, they have to reckon with sending payments into bank accounts across the country. They have to reckon with sending payments into mobile wallets into the country. Now, it sounds easy on the surface, but once you dig into the mobile wallet space, you'll find out they have 6 different operators in Tanzania that today aren't communicating with each other. So a traditional remittance company will potentially have to partner with each and every one of those 6 mobile wallet operators. That's time spent on partnership discussions. That's time spent on reviewing commercial structures, legal structures. That's time spent on technical integration with each and every one of these partners. That's time spent trying to understand how each of these domestic payment types work. Ultimately, for me, interoperability means taking that burden away from my client, the remittance company, such that they only have to be concerned with, I want to send money into Tanzania. This is the API that I use to send money into Tanzania, regardless of whether it's going to a bank account or whether it's going to wallet 1 or wallet 5, it really doesn't matter. So that's really what I'm focused on, particularly in my role of partnerships and expansion, making sure that Flutterwave can provide coverage for as many payment types across the countries where we have operations today, as well as making sure that we can continue to expand our payment type footprint to cover the other African countries where we don't currently have presence today.
Yeah, thank you. I think you bring up an interesting point, which may not be immediately obvious to the audience, which is that in order for a company to be able to service a large array of payment types, whether in collecting payments or paying them out, each of these integrations costs money, and ultimately this friction between the different networks means that the cost of integration is passed to the end consumer in many ways. So to the extent that we can work together to make systems more interoperable, I think the end consumer will benefit. Suren, I'm curious to hear in your role at Tempo, how do you think about interoperability in your business?
Well, actually, interoperability for us, it means the most important is clients. So it means what he needs. And because for any reason, the customer, our client, they need to send money smoothly, properly, and then to receive money as the way as is convenient for them. So it means that taking it into knowledge that sending money now, we are using a lot of payment means, yeah, and a lot of technology now we have, like especially we are talking about blockchain, Stellar technology. So it means that we should be able, so there is like 2 types. The first, we should provide our clients, let's say, common for them service, and this means that we should have interoperability in all type of technologies which we use. So they come to our office, they come to our website, they take our mobile wallet, they use our online website, so they send money, that's all, and then they receive money. And what happens between this is I would say, more professional stuff, which we have to be able to provide in a high, let's say, in a high as a high quality way, because the customer is, we don't need to, let's say, we can't put customer in the way when he thinks, guys, what happens, why I just sent money, I can receive it, and how I can receive it, etc. So that's why for us, using many type of technologies is this is a part of interoperability. This is a most important part now, especially now, because this is a transition period for all of us, because these traditional technologies, traditional payments, they start to pass through new technologies, and we face a lot of let's say, things which we have to solve, including like regulation part, like some professional part, which is like making interact between different type of payment systems, payment technologies, and all of this we do just for one reason, that to allow our clients to receive money and send and receive money the way which is very common for them. So that's why we, in Tempo, we start to develop e-wallet. As you know, we use Stellar technology very, very deep, and actually we decided to move forward. We decided to extend our license to be able to provide our clients a lot of payment means, a lot of services, to be able to give them, to attract them into our services, into our system. Because as you said, it's COVID era, it shows that clients, the same like either clients or businesses, we have to be quite secure and be able to react on such type of cataclysm very fast and very quality. So that's why for us, interoperability is a heart of our business for this moment. It's a strategical question. That's why we try to make it for different solutions: mobile money, traditional banking system, crypto network, traditional system, so digital wallet. So this is about what we are working in Tempo, and I believe that we will do it in a good way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Making the customer happy, of course, people think immediately of a smooth interface, a nice app, omni-channel. But a lot of the complexity and the real innovation happens under the hood, which is how do you connect to different payment networks in a cost-efficient way so that you can still offer the customer a cost-efficient payment. Ian, I'd love to hear a little from your perspective in terms of what interoperability means at Parahub.
Yeah, well, I think O and Suren captured quite a lot of it, right? And for us, I think what interoperability simply means convenience. Convenience for PetNet and Stellar to integrate, and for our customers, as O mentioned, right? Multi-wallet. We have our own wallet, but we're cognizant of the fact that our customers may have multiple wallets. So connecting to those wallets must be done as well, right? When we partnered with you guys, I think a large part of why we were able to connect quickly is that we were quite ready from previous engagements. So I think that is that became a factor for us to partner with you and other brands in the future as well. So integrating via APIs remains our focus, so that it becomes simpler and easier for everybody.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. We spoke at the outset of the panel about the market as it stands today, with the circumstances that we're all dealing with. I'd like to now, as our final topic, shift our focus to the future and discuss briefly, how do you see the remittance market evolving in, say, the next 5 years? And so I'd like to start with Suren. You operate in the Eurozone, which is, of course, primarily a sending market for remittances. Do you think that if you look 5 years into the future, will sending agents continue to play a role, or are you gearing up for a world where that is no longer important?
Yeah, Boris, it's really a very good question, because it's what we see and what happens in the market now, and based how technology develops. And I see that in nearest 5 years, we will see that role of agents will decrease for sure, especially in Europe, in Eurozone, because here we use, as you know, we use so-called mom and pop shops, which are not professional players. Of course, they are part of community, and a lot of people come from community and come to this shop, use their services, and at the same time they sell money transfers. But as we see that, taking into account how technologies grows and what type of services money transfer players start to provide, especially I'm talking about outside like Tempo. So we see that I will say this way, we don't see a big role of agents in the future. I will say even in Tempo, we make decision just to close, let's say, agent network, because there is no needs, because we need to provide our clients high quality service because of this new technology, because there's a lot of questions, and we have to keep our clients happy. So that's why. And also technology, we use mobile wallets. We will launch mobile wallets and other solutions, other financial services, which wants, more professional support, more professional service. So that's why I don't see that in the nearest 5 years in Europe, the role of agent will increase. It will decrease for sure.
Makes sense. And Ian, I'm curious, given the innovation that we're seeing in the space right now, what is your prognosis for the cost of remittances overall as we move forward?
Well, if you look at the last 10 or even 15 years, right, for us, margins have steadily gotten thinner. And I think that's still going to continue, right? Like they say, sometimes it's a race to the bottom. So I think it's all about partnering with the right people so that we can get significant volume. And I'm very pleased. We are very pleased about this partnership we have with Stellar, because it allows us to explore direct relationships with other anchors that you have in other countries, which provides, I suppose, better margins going forward, right? So for us, that's really a great thing. For the customer, it will become more affordable. For us, it becomes improved margins, right? So while I see that margins will continue, or service fees will continue to decrease, partnerships like Stellar will make us continue to be relevant.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And as the final question that I have for you, O, before we switch to audience Q&A, is how do you see new entrants coming into the space? What do you think the competitive landscape will look like in remittances if you look out 5 or even 7, 10 years from now?
5, 10, 7 years from now, I think new entrants will focus more on digital channels, just because it's tough now for margins when you think about traditional remittances. And because digital has shown the capacity to crash the cost of remittances, I think a lot of players who enter the space will have to focus on digital if they want to remain in business and remain viable. That said, I think that they will need to explore some interesting business models, not just the fee-for-service model that we have in industry today that's quite prevalent. I know like a few companies have already started to pilot a zero transaction fee for remittances, and working on the back end with their partners to try to make up for revenues from a foreign exchange perspective. So I think we'll continue to see a lot of models like that, or even providing services that batch together the number of transactions as opposed to a per transaction fee. I think that's probably areas in which new remittance companies can look to enter the market. So mostly it's going to be like a business model innovation and less of a like a technology innovation, really, because the tech is in place in most places. It's just a matter of building a business model to support that technology and ensuring that the revenues or the income from said operations can continue to sustain any new entrants, especially because you have some pretty large incumbents from a traditional perspective and from a digital perspective.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I think the focus will indeed be on business model innovation.
Yeah. And final thought on that. So if you, at least in Africa, looking across a few governments who are, I think all governments recognize the importance of remittances to their countries, right? Like it's Africa being mostly a receiving region. Remittances contribute a whole deal to GDPs across countries. And a few governments have started to take note of that, and they're looking for ways to increase the amount of remittances that inflow into their country. So you have regulators stepping into place now and trying to work with the financial participants in their countries to guarantee zero cost remittances. So they're saying, go out there, find partners who can help us bring remittances into the country, offer them zero fees, so that they in turn can offer zero fees to their senders, and we can improve and increase the inflow of remittances. So there's a lot of opportunity in the next few years to continue to grow remittances across the board.
Super interesting. Off the top of your head, 5 years from now, or in 2025, what portion of remittances will be done over blockchain rails, percentage-wise?
Oh boy, I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question. I don't think I'm qualified to answer that question.
Nobody really knows, but what's your guess?
Of digital or of all remittances?
Let's say digital for now.
I think that we can probably look to about 40% going through blockchain rails as opposed to directly into a traditional payment type.
Ian and Suren, do you agree?
From my side, I will just add that the very important part of this is the regulation, because as a sending country, we see it in France, in European Union, it's very important when regulators and regulation in general, they will, let's say, they will accept finally blockchain, and if it happens, so then it means that it could be like 50% and more for sure.
Right. Ian, final thought?
Well, I suppose because it's on the rise, I would say maybe 20-30% in the next 5 years.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's definitely more than we see today. So let's all work together to bring the cost of remittances down for the end users. We're out of time. I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us today, and thank you for the audience as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.